Hello everybody, this is Pavan Sathiraju, and in today's episode we are talking about India, Pakistan and China, the triangular relationship between these three countries. To get started, this is one of the most talked about conversations in the last few decades. Nationalist sentiments, geopolitical interests, culture, history, a lot of topics come into the conversations when we talk about these three countries. And in this video, we are talking about three aspects. Where did this all start? What are the contemporary dynamics between these three countries? And what are some of the potential outcomes if things go south? By the way, this is not just about India, Pakistan and China. This particular relationship also dictates what happens in the South Asian context, and also the entire world is looking at these three countries closely because these are three nuclear countries and also they determine the global peace and harmony. Now to get started, let's jump into the history. And the entire roots of this conversation will start from 1947, the post-British Raj India era. And one of the primary reasons for this entire issue is because the Britishers have left the country by just hastily drawing the borders. And there were a lot of conflicts and disputes that were not resolved at the time they left. And to think about it, there were 4 wars between India and Pakistan. There were 2 wars between India and China. And even today, the line of actual control and the line of control, both these borders are still tense. And a lot of this can be attributed to 1947, the borders which were drawn in a very hasty manner. Now, the entire stuff started from 1947, but few years down the lane, things started to escalate. In 1963, Pakistan did something very unique. They ceded the Trans-Karakorum Tract to China, one of the disputed borders in the Ladakh region. You can see how in 1947, India had just issues with India-China and India-Pakistan borders, but by 1963, this changed into India, Pakistan and China. Now, to take a few years forward, in 1965, when India and Pakistan engaged in the war, Pakistan believed that they were betrayed by the US. They believed that US was supporting them, and US did mention that they supported both India and also Pakistan. They supplied arms, but with the intention not to fight against each other, and none of the Indians or the Pakistanis believed in them. Now this pushed them closer to China, Pakistanis. We'll talk more about US involvement and how it changed the entire dynamics across these three countries in the next few videos. Please go ahead, click on that like button and also subscribe to the channel. Now, moving forward a few more years, in 1971, US has slightly tilted towards Pakistan because it needed Pakistan's support to have conversations with China. And also there was another matter of fact known as the Cold War. India was nowhere related between US and the USSR fight. However, Pakistan was one of the frontline states supporting US in its fight with USSR in Afghanistan. So Pakistan was building good relationships with US and also China by mid-1970s. And that's the reason why US did not bother too much when China was supporting Pakistan to build its own nuclear program. Now you can see how from 1947 to 1975, Pakistan had built good relationships by ceding its land and also by helping US in Afghanistan. However, in 1990s, the post-Cold War era changed the entire story once again. China became the superpower that we know today. It was on its path to becoming the global power, and India was closely following it. And when this was happening, China continued to build strong military ties with Pakistan. Because of the growing Chinese power, US made sure that they had some presence and they had some control in the South Asian geopolitical scenarios, and that's the reason why they started supporting India at every given opportunity. Today, however, the relationship between these three countries is quite fascinating. All the three are nuclear armed countries. Well, Pakistan, facing its conventionally superior neighbor India, made sure that it is getting assistance from China and also improving its own nuclear capabilities. On the other end, India has a realistic possibility of facing a two-front war where Pakistan and Chinese forces come together, and India definitely wants to avoid this specific situation. And China finally is making sure that it is strengthening its ties and making sure that its exposure and its power dominance over the entire neighborhood regions is growing through initiatives such as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, there is one small other thing in this entire picture, that is US. US of course doesn't want China to grow beyond its borders. Hence, it is making sure that it is building good, great connections with India at any cost. Now you can see how this entire action is not just between these three countries, but also US coming in and influencing the overall strategic supply chain between these three nations. Now if you take a step back, what are the possible ways in which this can play out if things go down south? Number one, realistic possibility for India to face a two-front war where both Pakistan and Chinese soldiers joining hands together. The second one, it is not just about these three countries, but US actually creating friction between these three countries and the relationship going down southwards, and also the South Asian geopolitical situation becoming little unstable. Along the same lines, we know that US is supporting India's membership for Nuclear Suppliers Group program. However, it is facing opposition from China, further complicating the triangular dynamics. There is also one other potential scenario that could play out, which involves not the three countries and the US, but also Afghanistan. The issue of Afghan security and China's role in Afghanistan passing through Pakistan impacts the entire strategic chain. These dynamics exacerbate tensions within India-Pakistan-China triangle, making differences even more protracted. Now, you tell me, what is the reason for China to go ahead and operate and own a port in Sri Lanka? How do these things play out? Also, why is China building a road in Russia? How Cold War affected China, India and Pakistan relationships? I did talk about it briefly. Please go ahead and put down your comments below. Where does India stand in countering Pakistan and China? Do let me know in the comments, and I will continue to talk about these issues in the next few videos. Please go ahead, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.